All right, everyone. Welcome to. I think if we're keeping count, this is stream 2 on the year. It looks like I might be 2 for 2 and starting off not on mute, so hopefully everyone can hear me loud and clear. Joining me today, Aaron Rosenmund, Ryan Chapman, two fellows that have been on before, and today we're just going to talk whatever comes top of mind about what we're looking for in the cyber threat landscape for 2025. So hopefully we have a pretty dynamic and engaging and exciting conversation here. Hello, Oreo Disassembler. You're back, and again, really love the name. I have to admit to eating Oreos probably every day of my life with a glass of milk. So before we get started, just one real quick announcement here. The latest episode of the podcast is out. If you weren't aware, I have a podcast that focuses on the kind of the behind the scenes, really the people in the world of reverse engineering. And I consider reverse engineering a very broad term here. Stephen Eccles is the guest for this episode. He is quite accomplished reverse engineer for the Flare team. He has a ton of great projects out there. If you find him on GitHub, you'll see what I'm talking about. He started his journey with game modding and game hacking, and he talks about that, open source software, getting into a little bit of AI as well towards the end of the podcast. So definitely check that out. You can find it on hopefully any podcast app that you're using behind the binary, and Spotify is certainly probably the most popular just based off of the download information I get. Please do take a moment to like and subscribe and leave comments there. It really helps the podcast to grow and helps me to get a better idea of the audience outside of just seeing downloads. So it's kind of a weird world. It's my first podcast, and trying to measure impact and success, as it were, has been a bit challenging. All right. So outside of that, the live stream schedule here will probably slow down a little bit. I'm going to be on some travel for the next couple of weeks, so not going to be doing the streams, but they will resume in February through March and into April. So I have a lot of guests already lined up. Here, let me bring my face back on and not the desktop. Okay, well, let's get into bringing Aaron and Ryan on. Let me see if I can get this navigated. Boy, I'm just having a heck of a time today clicking the right buttons. There we go. So welcome, gentlemen. Aaron, Ryan, it's great that you're back. We're into a new year, 2025. It seems like we just did a stream yesterday, and I guess if I look at the calendar, it's been in a couple months probably. So today meant to be just real kind of open format. If anyone has questions, we've got chat open. We're watching that. So please feel free to jump in, interject, ask questions, give us your insight as well. Really love to hear that. So Aaron, I don't know if you want to start just a brief intro, just for anyone who doesn't remember you from the last stream.
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm Aaron Rosenmund, 12 years Air National Guard. I'll start with that this time. Very proud of that. Cyber warfare officer, the Delaware Air National Guard. Currently, I'm a senior director at OnDefend for Tradecraft and Programs, where I run as the program director for the Independent Security Investigator into TikTok USDS. So that's a busy week for us this week.
Yeah, TikTok. Yeah, congratulations. That's been a career change, job change since we were last on. So that's exciting for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and TikTok, I was asking you earlier, is that some sort of a kitchen timer app? I'm not real.
Yeah,
not real sure.
and it just counts the passage of time for you. It's been incredibly popular. It makes time goes faster, some say.
Well, then I've been using TikTok for a long time. I guess it's like inherent in the aging process. Ryan, welcome back. Excited to have you here. I guess brief intro and maybe you could kick things off with just what's on top of your mind for 2025.
Yeah, that works. I mean, first off, thank you for having me. Hello, folks. How you doing? My name is Ryan. I've been working as a team lead for a large managed threat hunting operation for a large firm that I won't name right now. But if you just check LinkedIn, it's right there. And prior to that, I did 5 years in incident response consulting. So threat hunting, malware analysis, incident response, those are all things in my wheelhouse, things that I enjoy. I work for SANS. I got my little shirt on. Watch out.
Yeah, yeah.
As an author, Forensics 528, ransomware, and cyber extortion. That's my baby. Oh, so much work and love go into that course. So whenever I say it, I get excited about it. And I just love to run my mouth. So Josh likes to have me on his various things, and I get excited to do them. One of the things that I've been looking at pretty heavily in the past, I don't know, month or two, are EDR killers and silencing methods. And I'm just guessing here, but I believe that we're going to continue to see a proliferation of those bad boys. We keep seeing on the dark web. It's just Tor, folks. I just keep seeing on the forums, new ones pop up, new novel methods that a lot of the larger product companies respond to by going, and then have to make a quick fix, and then all of a sudden it rinse and repeat, right? So killers are basically just malware specimens that kill EDR, XDR products, right? They just stop them from working, whether they remove the files and restart the host, whether they inject somewhere, many different ways to do it, unload libraries, yada, 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 use vulnerable drivers and whatnot. And then EDR silencing methods are methodologies that basically just silence the communication between the EDR agent and its cloud-based tenant so that they can't communicate, so that they're still able to do their little, shenanigans without security teams being, none the wiser that they're doing silly stuff in your environment. So researching a lot of the closed source ones, but even more so the open source ones, there's a bunch of them just sitting on GitHub that a lot of folks are, not really paying attention to, and doing a lot of hunting within client environments and in a more large scale in the threat intel community, trying to help folks out, getting indicators, pivoting here and there, trying to identify actors and paying attention to the changes in the families and seeing how certain things like Stone Stop is one that one of the APT groups is using, and it's evolved over time itself. So it's basically, okay, the product catches it, and now it doesn't. Oh, now it does. Oh, no, it doesn't. And it's very, very annoying because, working in incident response, when we come in, it's all about visibility. What can you see? What happened? What files were created? What files were removed or renamed or deleted? What processes ran? And when you have all your eggs in the basket of an EDR product and all of a sudden it becomes unavailable, it's just not there, you're like, oops, that sucks.
Yeah.
So what about you folks? You've been messing with those at all?
Well, what is I haven't really come across much. I'm a little out of. I think I just out of it. I've been doing a lot of training lately, which oddly enough, when you do a lot of training, you kind of fix to the training content that you developed, and it is as current as you try to keep it. It's not like working a malware queue every day of the week. So I'm curious with these EDR killer, these techniques. I mean, I'm guessing it's things like you said, killing processes and other sort of anti-analysis that you might encounter. I mean, is that the sequence of events then? It's going to try to avoid detection, to kill the detector, and then continue on with its execution. So you still have this layer of anti-analysis, anti-whatever, anti-detection, and then the EDR killing activity, and then resume. So it almost sounds like it's another layer of...
You have to gain access enough to be able to, to have the authority level to be able to affect those processes for the EDR in the first place, right? Which is, in one case, or not to completely derail this, but CrowdStrike having kernel level access being such a big deal in the news, right? It was like, well, yeah, you want it to run at that level, so that is the required level of authentication to interrupt its ability to detect things, right? So that's one. Some messing around with it. I build them. So that's fun.
Well, yeah, I guess that was kind of my next question, because I know, Aaron, this is the kind of where you love to be. I know the Iron Cat malware or ransomware that you developed a couple of years ago for RSA or something, right? Like that kind of took off for you.
For training and stuff.
It's always for training and educational purposes.
It was a training exercise. And Well, so what's interesting, the whole cat and mouse concept. That's something I actually submitted as a talk this year. We'll see if it gets picked up. So I'm not gonna like
Hmm.
dig into it or like, I'm not trying to pressure any of the readers or raters of the talks out there. But the the talk was on leveraging AI, because we had to say it at least once, right? Was leveraging AI to really rapidly like submit a sample, figure out what part of that was detected, but like you don't have to actually figure it out if you just like have say 100 different techniques or ways that you achieve an effect with malware with the source code, right? Change one, compile it, submit it. Change another, compile it, submit it, and then you can just like rapidly do that and see like what picks up what techniques, and then leverage the AI to just like really rapidly figure out like, okay, we'll just continue to obfuscate that and loop until you get something that's like not remotely detected by anything, and seeing how that works. Like, I'm not saying that's something that I've like completely built out yet, but just kind of like exploring that is something that I think is really interesting, because this cat and mouse game becomes, okay, we have a signature, and most signatures, if you look like the Yara signatures from like Thor scanner
Yeah.
um, on Google. So when you look at those, you're like, it's like if it says evil at like it within these lines twice, then it's probably evil, right? And you're like, okay, well, what if I just move it to another line, or it says evil instead of evil? And you're like, yeah, well, then it's totally good to go. Like, that's like a lot of signature detection. And it's just like, well, if you're doing like in-memory detection, you're saying like, what, like that's fancy, right? You're like, no, that's just the difference between it looking for the word evil on the disk or looking for the word evil in memory. Those are the two differences. That's it. You can still evade in memory detection the same way. And so it's not quite the EDR killer stuff, but it is a way to like be able to sneak by. And it's this whole concept of like, that's a losing game for us, I think, as defenders. From the defender perspective, is like, we're not moving the needle. We're just like keeping up. We're like, we got to stop playing their game by their rules.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, because I mean, there's a number of different avenues we could kind of spin off from here. Detection capability is one, and that, yes, I think a lot of rules out there, at least those that kind of live in the public, semi-public sphere, are relatively straightforward, string based, maybe a few actual byte patterns here and there that represent non-human readable data. I'd be real curious to see, like, to take a sample set and see how easy it is to bypass those in a more like scientific approach method to
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
the other thing is like the in memory versus on disk. I had a conversation about this not too long ago, in which I had some people I was talking to that were like convinced that scanning is different in memory, and I said, well, no, it's just like, if we talk about it in regards to a PE file, the segments are different, and like maybe there's going to be data there isn't. Maybe it's going to be unobfuscated.
Yeah. Right.
But that's all true. Yeah, so it is different because it's running, but it all depends on what you're looking at. And if you're looking at a program, let's say we're looking at coin miners, and the miner itself is not doing any sort of obfuscation, anti-analysis, well, then it's largely going to be the same thing on disk as it is in memory. Just
Right.
alignments are going to be
Yeah.
different.
Slows in.
Yeah. So yeah, it was interesting conversation, because I don't know if I quite got my point across.
Yeah. I think if anything, it's like one of the things I didn't realize until more recently than I'd like to admit is that there's triggers for when like AMC or like the built-in engine for scanning antivirus from Microsoft of when AMC or other EDRs that they bypass, because some EDR just uses AMC like as the engine, and then some has its own. It's like, no, we don't need you, we got it. And so like there's different triggers, right? Because it's like, okay, if a file was created, like if there's an API call for file create, that triggers this set of signatures. And if there's like a process created, that triggers this set of signatures. And so I've had it where like something was really bad on disk that didn't trigger in memory, and vice versa, right? And you're like, no, you totally should have detected that in memory, but it's fine. And it's just because it is different sets, and so that starts to become really interesting too. It's like, if you touched registry, then look at what it's doing in the registry, and it's this set of so just realizing there's different signatures for different things. And when you talk about memory, it's a lot more intrusive to CPU power to scan memory as processes pop up than it is to just like as a file happens to be written to disk within a certain space.
Let's do a full breakdown of physical versus virtual memory.
Yeah, I was just thinking, and then there's that. Like, how do you
Yeah.
get access to scan all the memory and yeah, I haven't had to work too much with that. You know, I realize over the years that I have this just like this little carved out world I live in where I get a sample and I analyze that, and oftentimes I don't really have to worry about all of the other things that it's, you know, like how does Defender actually, when does it decide to hook these things? Well, it doesn't. I don't really care because I just have to figure out what this malware is doing and get past the obfuscation to provide a report or
Yeah.
some insight into it. So yeah, I think that's always, it's always fun to talk with folks that are more in the red team space because it always helps me to connect a little bit more of the gaps. And again, you know, like I'm not on an incident response team. I don't typically see the full chain. I just get a binary or two or some samples, and yeah, it's like very, very focused sort of analysis. So it's interesting. I love it, but it also I feel isolated at times, and I lose that perspective of where is it all, like what's the big picture here with these things.
Yeah. It's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah. So we had one question here, or one suggestion about AI agents and cybersecurity, and of course that is the hot topic for the year. Is just how are we, you know, how is it being used, how is it proliferating? You know, I think Aaron, you kind of touched on it there, and not only that, but making sure to put it into talk and training submissions because that'll be guaranteed to bump those up to the top. But like
Yeah.
what are either of you looking for? I mean, how are you seeing AI trickle into your day to day? I have to say, from an RE perspective, nothing has really hit me front and center. The team I work on, Flare, released XRefer, which is an IDA plugin for using, I believe, LLMs. It's on my list of things
the
to explore,
model.
but I haven't
Yeah.
used it yet. So that's
'Cause
kind of
they're-
where I'm at with it.
Because the models are binary files, right? And so yeah, you can, is that the plugin to use IDA to debug the LLM model files? I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's it. I guess I thought it was. Let me look it up.
There you go.
While you're doing that,
I thought it was there to help provide like code insight, basically. You know, like, here's a function.
I see.
You know,
I get it.
run it through the LLM through the, you know, the decompiled output or the assembly output, and say help me make more sense of this function. I'm probably misrepresenting it though, because the team went through great trouble. There's a great GitHub. Here, I'll drop a link in the chat for everyone. A great GitHub. There's a great blog post as well. So let's see here. It examines execution paths from entry points, breaks down the binary into clusters of related functions, and highlights downstream behaviors and artifacts for quicker insights.
I
So
see.
yeah,
It's like
I think,
assistive. I get it. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. I think it's meant to be more of your you know, your AI based reverse engineering buddy in IDA.
there's a ransomware group out there, FunkSec. They recently released an, I almost said a press release, but it's a post on a dark web forum about a press release. But they are outright stating that the group leverages AI for specific tasks, such as creating tools and phishing templates, though they emphasize that AI contributes to only about 20% of their operation. That's still a decent amount. Like, come on now.
Their
Yeah.
devs are trying to keep their jobs too.
Yeah. They're like, hey, just say 20.
Yeah.
Don't say 95. Just say 20.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they're on the beach sipping Mai Tais and
Yeah.
letting those agents do their thing.
Right. I guess I'll admit that most of my AI use, I would love to say I have access to a number of private LLMs, you know, on-prem LLMs, and some of them even fed with large scale like source code databases and things like that I can finagle with, and, you know, write queries for disparate tools and things of that nature. I use AI mostly for image generation for memes. Personally, that's what I use it for.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Well,
AI,
you can make GIFs now too with
Yes.
Sora on ChatGPT.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, and I just started using Grok.
Okay.
Oh,
I like Midjourney for the graphics.
Midjourney's pretty good.
They're
I
just
feel
beautiful.
like
Yeah,
it's like
just beautiful.
the best pictures.
But we actually had a little contest in house at quote unquote day job, $ day job, excuse me. And it was, if someone can, you know, some points to someone who can produce a real world example of obvious AI use for phishing. And it was funny because these days you look at some of the phishing, because remember when phishing, it was just like, look for bad grammar and misspelling and, you know, things like, and now a lot of the phishing looks just phenomenal. And you're like, oh, that looks real, but it's not. It looks real.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like,
And then,
look for excellent grammar. That's,
yeah.
That's,
Yeah. So I made a joke.
Yeah.
I was like, me goes and just creates one. So I went and, used AI to create a bunch of phishing templates. And I'm like, these just look like what we get. I was like, they just look like phishing. It's so simplistic at this point. But yeah, we're pretty sure it's being used heavily in phishing. And it's too late. I already started talking. BECs, business email compromises, that spur from phishing. We're thinking that we're going to see an increase in AI utilization for scraping like the gallery, from once they gain access to an account, and being able to then determine next paths and upstream and or downstream, however you want to, phrase that. But I don't have a direct example. So there's that. But yeah, a lot of the things that I do just for, code creation, I'm not a coder at, like, for example, Josh's level, but I can write Python to do this or that or this or that. I had a very simplistic task, and I figured to myself, this will take me 2 hours, right? And I popped in an LLM, and within 2 minutes, I had perfectly working code. It was far more efficient than what I would have written, which I don't want to admit, because I know a lot of diehards are like, what did he just say? But it was great. It was perfect.
Yeah.
So I could easily tell that if I were a malware developer, I'd be like, yeah, only 20%.
Yeah, and it's the examples, and I don't know if this is where they were going with the agents, but the examples they use are like that people use to like incite fear. Like, I asked it to make malware, and it said, okay, then made malware, right? That it won't, not really, like that's not the way it's gonna work. But if you are already a malware developer, right, and you say, okay, like, I need to use syscalls only, and port my this function over to run on Linux, right? And it's really specific, be like, here it is running on Windows. What's a similar syscall structure in Linux? And like, how would I like write that in C, right? And be like, yeah, cool. That's the kind of stuff where, like, if you're already a malware developer, it can really help with that. And like, that would have taken me forever, right? And usually you're kind of like stuck. Like, if you're a malware developer, you're like, I'm a Windows malware developer because I don't want to have to go spend a whole nother lifetime learning how Linux works, right? Except now it doesn't matter. You can just kind of like, I don't know, would this run on like a space station? I don't know. What do space stations run? And then yeah,
it's gonna all be Go anyway.
it's going. Yeah,
it's good. I want it to run all these places. Go.
Yeah, I'm using it, for a lot of the same purposes. Image generation, yeah, absolutely. It's helped my marketing game quite a bit. I do find when I ask for actual like social media content, not to create it for me, because I don't want to lose that personal touch, but just to help me sound better. I struggle sometimes creating content, and it just has this kind of overemphasized, over exuberant sort of tone that it always takes. I'm always saying, hey, tone it down a little bit, make it sound a little bit more like me. Code gen stuff, yeah. I mean, I'm a terrible C developer, and others. I just hack things together. So I definitely find it really useful for that. And and like I said, I haven't found myself. I need to get into a sample and really spend some time with it. Yeah, I'm at that point where I can just look at the sample and use my normal techniques, as long as that's nothing that I'm sensing is going to be a large endeavor. Or I can take the extra time right now and figure out how plugins like Xreffer work and see if I can get value of it. And I'm like, well, that's probably an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 of extra, learning curve right now. So I'm going to table that just a little bit longer. I am curious, and we don't have to go into this topic because I imagine the audience is much smaller. But I have found myself thinking about too, like, how can I use, because like I'll use AI to help, or LLMs to help generate small binaries for training and education. It seems like there's going to be an opportunity here for really maybe scale content creation, and it probably already is too. I'm not real plugged into that because I still want to make my own stuff, but creating learning material and
Mhm.
making it maybe more dynamic or fluid. And I think that could be pretty exciting. Um, I have a very deep research project right now. I don't want to give away too many details, but I'm also finding that the different LLMs I'm using, they're confidently wrong, and that's really frustrating because it'll give you, especially when you're trying, like I'm trying to really dig into some technical specs, and it's just, I don't know, maybe I'm using the wrong models, but it just
Mm.
at times it'll be 100% like this is the correct answer, and then I'll go and reference the material and say no, it's not, and it's like, oh yeah, you're absolutely right, it isn't the right answer. Here's the same answer again, and so it just, I
Yeah.
wonder how, if I have issues with accuracy at this level, how do you know if you're not a coder using it to generate code? I had a conversation with a buddy the other day, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm using it to generate SQL queries. Do you know SQL?" "Oh no, I don't." Well, you've got to be careful there because
Yeah.
you don't know if you're actually getting accurate SQL from your LLM, and you might be running very sensitive business processes from that query that ultimately is incorrect. So
Well, that's one of the things, and then I probably have to drop here, but one of the things that's really interesting for me is like, what did it do in cyberspace? And the biggest thing I think it's done is invent a new set of attack surface. There's different kinds of attacks that did not exist before that can be done against LLMs. And so it's like this whole other space now. It's like when, um, it's like the difference between like a network pen test and a web app pen test. This is like a whole subsect of like pen
yeah,
testing that can be done, and even the models themselves can be um, not just poisoned. Like you can poison it. Like say you poison it with like a SQL query that was totally vulnerable, and you're just like fed it thousands of really vulnerable SQL queries. And then it's like, I mean, I guess this is a good SQL query, and that's what it gives you, right? And so that's one example. But you can also like patch the binary in such a way that when the like underlying OS that runs the LLM runs it, it like calls back out to you as malware. The LLM is the malware. It's amazing. Yeah, it's like a
yeah.
whole new world. So I like that is new for sure. But
Yeah, well, and the focus, it seems like, has been on whose job is it taking, not maybe as much. I haven't heard as much conversation about the stuff that you're talking about. I'm sure those are happening,
yeah,
but it'll be. I think this will be the year. It really, I don't know if I would say hits a level of maturity, but it seems to me like by the end of this year, we're going to have a much better understanding of where the space is going to be, where there's going to be opportunities for like new security careers, not only using them and leveraging them for detection, for modeling, but also finding these weaknesses and vulnerabilities.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I gotta drop, gents, but it's been fantastic.
yeah, no problem. Thanks
Yeah,
for taking
duty
time out of your
calls.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
thanks.
definitely. I will harass you to come on again. So
Please do.
it's
Yeah,
early in the
can't
year.
wait.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna watch the recording, so I'll know what you say about me after I leave. See you, Ryan.
Okay.
Yes. Bye.
The first time I saw a trivial bypass, let's talk about Aaron now. First time I saw a trivial bypass for a particular EDR product was when Aaron, this is, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, whatever it was, when he was like, hey, you want to see something funny? And he just grabbed the Mimikat source code and he went and changed two constants that were, in the code from literally just saying like Mimikatz, the string, to, like, I don't know, Iron Cats or whatever, one of his kind of phrases.
Yeah.
And compiled it and just boop, just ran access to LSAS, did all its little dirty deeds, and I was like, ew. That was simplistic.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I am surprised at how fragile it all kind of is, and the little modifications like that keeps things moving. But I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot to keep up with, and I don't know. It just seems like there's going to be a lot of opportunities, just not only for defense, but as we were talking about, for the red teams, the offensive operators, and then of course the criminal and the nation state and everything else that's happening. So I'm just excited to see how it all shakes out. Tools are going to start to integrate this tech. I would imagine IDA is going to have some level of integration at some point. Binary Ninja, as a really popular reverse engineering platform, has Sidekick, which uses LLMs as sort of your RE buddy, your pal, or however you want to look at it. Give him a name, give her a name. give it a name, and just helping with code analysis. And hopefully it creates a lot of efficiencies, not just for RE, but for just across the board for us. But at the same time, it's going to create more efficiencies for things like you were talking about, business email compromise and iterating and morphing samples to bypass detections. And so, yeah, it'll be an interesting year.
Someday soon we'll be running IDA and you'll see Flare AI. You'll be like, wait, what? Wait a minute. Hey, harkening back before we move too far forward, I've been trying to keep up with that new landscape that Aaron was referencing in terms of attacks on the LLM systems. There's a great book from Pact called Adversarial AI Attacks. It has a long name, Mitigations and Defense Strategies, and then there's a subtitle. But Adversarial AI Attacks from Pact, from John Soteropoulos is how I'm going to pronounce that name. If I butchered your name, I'm so sorry. It's a great book, a lot of Python, step-by-step kind of thing, but like all kinds of just different poisoning attacks and how it actually works. And the thought of nation states gaining access to LLMs and poisoning them and using that for, the low and slow or long-term. Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, that's cool. I have not come across that. I'm trying to dig up a link here. This book. It's got to be on. Well, there it is on Pact. Awesome. All right, I'll drop a link in the chat for everyone and for posterity here.
Cool.
Okay. Well, maybe I've added another item to my reading list for this year. Yeah. Well, I don't know. What else is top of mind for you? Is there anything other attack scenarios or trends or defensive technologies or anything that you're really excited about or keeping an eye on?
Steelers are also something that have just been it's like the whole exponential growth hockey stick style, or the word I like to use, proliferation. I just like saying that word. Luma Stealer is one that a lot of managed teams, MSSPs, managed threat hunting like I'm on, managed detection and response, just seeing in so many client environments. It's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Especially using I can't call it new. It wasn't even new when Luma started using it a year ago or whatever it was. But the term being, I just blanked out. Live on the air. What is it called? The social engineering tactic that I research all the time, by which a web page somehow redirecting a user to a site that basically says you need to verify that you're a human, or hey, there's been an issue on this machine. In order to fix it, you have to the following, both of which trying to get the user to start the run dialog box and pop in a little, usually it's a base64 encoded PowerShell. And then from there, they run MSHTA or something else, VB script, something like that, in order to download a script that acts as a loader, which then does all the bad stuff. Still completely blanking out in that term. Someone have it in chat for me?
Yeah,
if any of my coworkers ever watch this, they're gonna be like, dude, we use that term like all the time. How did you fail that? Click fix. Click fix is the term I'm thinking of. Yeah. Even the ones that are verify you're human have still been kind of categorized, at least in the Intel communities, as click fix. So yeah, seeing a lot of that and just a lot of Luma Stealer within environments, and many of them are ending with things like auto IT, however you want to pronounce it, scripting and compiled executables, and just taking like this mishmash of different techniques that are some are a little more difficult to detect and some are super easy to detect, and just being super successful. It's annoying.
Huh.
How successful
that's a commodity stealer, right? People buy that on a forum somewhere. Yeah. Okay. So you're saying that like the technique or the pattern, the delivery chain right now is a variety of scripting tech that leads to like MSHTA and PowerShell and VB script and all that. I shouldn't say garbage, but sometimes it can be a real pain to analyze that stuff.
Easily detectable, type of things. Many of them are stopped. Any EDR, XDR worth its snuff these days is immediately going to be like, stop it, and not let that happen. But but still a lot of groups out there don't have those types of products and are just rocking something like, Sysmon on the box or just out of the box Windows, and if you think about it, I still don't know of one yet. And if one is out there, let me know, because I'd actually like to recommend it to some folks. But security awareness training that specifically covers ClickFix and actually mentions, hey, don't go to start and then choose run and then paste something in and hit enter. Because to us, when you say the run dialog and you say paste PowerShell in there, you're like, what? Who would do that? But you think about the masses, right? It's a new vector. They've been taught look for phishing, and now they've been taught look for SMS-based threats. Like these are actually associated with groups like Muddled Libra / Scattered Spider, another name for them. Meanwhile, hit Windows key and press R, and it says run, and they go, all right, type, enter, and then oops.
Yeah, I mean the social engineering part of that is pretty easy, right? Like you said, you hit a shortcut key, paste this thing in, and I mean it's a little more. Maybe I know plenty of folks in my sphere that couldn't handle that, but there's still quite a few that can, and it is pretty interesting. Okay, and then that chain ends with maybe an auto IT wrapper or something for the actual main Luma Stealer executable, and then and it's not doing anything. I actually was looking at a sample of it just this last week or so. I was actually going to put a video series together on reverse engineering it, because it seems like it's really, really prevalent and popular right now. And I haven't gotten that far into it. Usually the first layer is always the string obfuscation and maybe some code obfuscation and runtime linking and stuff. But I mean, it just seems like from the other write-ups that I've looked at, it's just the typical browser stealer looking for where browsers are storing credentials and other sensitive data, gathering that data up and then shipping it out of the environment. So it's weird that these things are still out there and so prevalent, but I guess it makes sense. That's where all the important data for our users is going to be located. These different data storage mechanisms within the browser. Makes me wonder. I've never used them. Like I've always rejected storing credentials in the browser unless I absolutely don't care about those credentials because I'm lazy and I want it to be synced across devices that I don't want to have to get into my password manager. But I don't know. I guess maybe they're just not that solidly written, or I mean, I'm wondering why the pressure isn't on and why the browser. I mean, I get it. Like everything's done on the browser, so let's add more capability to the browsers. But as a browser developer, where do I say, okay, like we have enough footprint of things that we're developing, enough's enough. Maybe we should leave password management to the password management companies.
Yeah, there's an evolution really of storing passwords in browsers. I think Google, I believe, / as far as I know, Google's leading the charge in protecting them, and they've made some major strides in the past year or so. But a lot of the things that they're trying to do are, like over time, we've had things like first off, a database file that's just a SQLite database with a username and password, right? Start out kind of small, and then from there, that was kind of obvious. So then it was, protecting things with DP API for the user session, or protecting things with a key, but that key is actually stored in a .db file, which, by the way, is a SQLite database. And before I forget, two various things I wanted to mention about info stealers. One of them, if folks want to kind of see the evolution of some stealers in a more technical landscape, a researcher that goes by the name Russian Panda, Anne, she has a website, russianpanda.com. And I think on a venue like this, me telling people to go to a website called russianpanda.com, they're probably like, no. But it's just her blog. But she documents all these fun source code breakdowns. I should say disassembly / decompilation breakdowns of a bunch of stealers. And it's really cool seeing the evolutions. And she ties families together and looks at code reuse and stuff like that. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And another thing is that stealer logs have become like the bane of the existence of many an IR consultant. So for anyone not aware, and there's your site. Cool.
Yeah, I knew I could do it.
info stealers, when they steal credentials, right, they put them into a log format, and that log format then basically gets exfiltrated out to wherever they need to send them for that particular stealer. And then at that point, whoever's leasing the stealer and is exfiltrating that data, and probably the devs too, receive all those, and now they have a bunch of credentials. So what are they going to do with those credentials? Well, they can do all kinds of follow-on attacks with those, or just sell them to initial access brokers who work commonly with folks like ransomware operators / affiliates, right? So before I go too far into that, various stealers have certain formats for their logs. Think of it like in the old days of key logging, right? A keylogger would have some type of format for its key logging. Sometimes it would have like just the process name, colon, and then whatever was typed, something like that.
Yeah.
But over time, they became a little more specific, and you might be able to tell, oh, that came from Perfect Keylogger or something like that, which is still out there these days. Which blows my mind. So there's a GitHub project, and I have it. I didn't prep this. I just thought of it right now. Let's see. The new GitHub project is called.
Oh, I think I saw identify that. Yeah.
What is this stealer?
What is this? Yep, I saw that.
Malbeacon's repo. What dash is dash this dash stealer? What is the stealer? And it basically shows you an example. So if you come across stealer logs within your environment, then you can more easily go, I think that might be so and so. There it is. Yeah, that little guy right there.
Yeah, and I guess that's a testament to how much of an issue these things have become. I mean, they've obviously been around for a while, but I guess I don't have any particular insight that I can speak to about how their growth and prevalence has changed. But certainly when you see projects like this spawning out, it's not because the community is bored. I mean, that can be the source of projects, but likely look at Russian Panda, contributor. It's because of the prevalence and the growing issue. Yeah. I happened across. I was just looking at some random. Sometimes I'll do this. I'll just grab random stuff that is on Abuse CH and just take a look at it. So I was looking at some .NET malware just to see. They're oftentimes droppers and downloaders. So I was just trying to see like what that initial layer of code looks like. And one of them wasn't overly complex or sophisticated. It led to a snake keylogger. And the reason I knew that is because they prominently advertised or not keylogger, the snake stealer. Well, maybe it is a keylogger now. Now I'm forgetting. But anyways, it was like prominently advertised in the log file. So I suppose there's this sort of back and forth of these, and that they are, the ones that are selling their wares also have to do a little bit of informal advertising, and that's maybe a way to do that.
.NET has been a love of mine. Hold on, let me back that statement up. Obfuscated .NET malware has been a love of mine, because that's another thing where we've just seen this, again, exponential growth in the various cryptors, packers, whatever you want to call them, obfuscators. I just shared with you, and maybe you could share that out in the public chat. When you get a sample these days and it's .NET, right? For anyone not aware, there's a tool out there called dnSpy. And dnSpy is just my absolute favorite analysis tool for .NET compiled malware, or I guess programs, but I'm just looking at malware. So when you pull it up, if you can read it right away and see where the main entry point function is in dnSpy, and just go boop, and then just start reading through it. All right, well, it's not obfuscated. If it is, many of them right in the initial metadata, right before, when you have the assembly, and then before you actually go down into the various functions and classes it contains, a lot of them will say like obfuscated by blah, 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 right? Well, if you run into that, well, then check out this GitHub here, the .NET deobfuscator from not Prab, excuse me. Can't read today. Yeah, that little list has very, very much so grown over time. It's older now. It hasn't been updated in a while, apparently, but a lot of these still work, and a lot of directors are still using these.
Yeah, 3 years from the last commit, but dnSpy, there's an active fork by Electrokill. DE4 is another kind of generic deobfuscator, and that's something that's still quite effective, but it's been abandoned now for years in terms of an open source project.
DNSpy EX. What was the name of the person who took it over?
Electro Kill is.
And that isn't that a 17 or 18-year-old
Yep.
young
I
gentleman?
believe so. I don't know exactly, but I've been chatting with them via XDMs, and yes, I know fairly young person. So that's pretty awesome.
DNSpy was just by
Right
the
here.
way, it's the only one that I know of where you can actually debug a .NET compiled program, and if it's obfuscated and just debug, on the fly and just go have fun. And
Yeah.
when they archived it, my heart was like, no, stop it. A couple of us also trained Forensic 610 for SANS, and we cover .NET, and we cover, and I was like, no, I want DNSpy. And then when I heard it being reinvigorated by a teenager, I was like, okay, well, it's there's a lot to this program, blah, 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 blah. Who cares what Ryan thinks? That dude killed it. Yeah, it's just awesome updates, and it's even better than before. Oh,
yeah, it's amazing. And that's like a whole nother conversation of tool chains and open source software and supporting open source software. Before we get too far away from Russian Panda, she will be a guest here this year at some point in time, working on scheduling that. And I'm guessing our conversation will be coming back to Steelers, because that is definitely a passion of hers. One other thing I wanted to point out here, just in talking about .NET. There's some really good obfuscators that you can encounter. Code flatteners are a particular challenge in that you can create these very large and complex looking binaries in which the flow of the program is not obvious because it's been flattened. So think about taking a large function and then breaking it up into smaller nuggets, and then like distributing those across a big case statement and saying, okay, the order in which we're going to execute these cases is going to be completely dependent upon the order in which I tell it to. And so sequentially, like case 1 and case 400, that might be, case 1 might be the first block, case 400 might be the second, case 200 might be the third. And it's like really hard to figure that out. Well, a lot of times, because these are downloaders and droppers, I've been playing around with time travel debugging by WinDebug, which is not a new thing. But you can record traces of these and just like zip right ahead to where you'll find them in memory, because oftentimes they're using native APIs from Windows, kernel 32 stuff, write process memory and create process. And so now you don't have to go through that like layer of running it and then pausing execution and then finding it in memory and dumping it from memory. Like the traces, it's just all right there. So you just have to zip ahead in the time travel trace, go, okay, this is where it's writing the PE into memory, or it starts writing portions of the PE into memory. I'm just going to dump that sucker out, and now I've got the PE file. So a lot of cool stuff there that if you're not plugged into using TTD for some of your work, I hope to make a lot more content around it this year, because I think it's limited, right? It's got its use cases, it's got its limitations, it's got its bugs and its flaws, but some of those, helping unravel some of this initial layer stuff. Like you don't even have to look at the .NET and go, oh, it's got a code flattener. You can just capture a trace and dump the process stuff.
But before I forget, also, because I forget things quickly, my memory's horrible. My favorite obfuscation utility of all time is called, it's either Movefuscator or Mobfuscator.
Oh, yeah, you've mentioned this before.
I used to volunteer to stay after when I'd be teaching malware classes, and they'd be like, you guys just want to see a really funny obfuscator? And some people would be like, yeah. I'm like, all right, hang out after class. And then I would write like, a 20-line little C simple hello world or something. I'd be like, all right, watch. And I'd run it through this sucker. And then you get like a 10 megabyte with just move statements. It's just move statements. And you're like, yeah, good luck with that. Oh, this tool.
Yeah. Does this look like it?
Yeah, that's it right there.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know you've mentioned it before, and I'm sure I've bookmarked it and meaning to play around with it. If just cursory glance, if it takes this and turns it into this,
it's just all moves.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Yeah, good times.
All right, I'll get that into the chat. Where is the chat? There's the chat. Okay, cool. Well, what else you got, Ryan? I'm kind of running out of topics off the top of my head. If anyone has anything they'd like to discuss, let us know. I think I'm sensing that we're going to probably wrap it up here pretty soon. So now's a great chance to ask. Of course, comments will be open on the video, so the stream once it's posted. So if you got comments after the fact, I do tend to those. So I try to keep response to the comments as timely as I can. Although it can get a little overwhelming at times, trying to keep up with all the communications. But yeah, so if nobody has any questions, I can't, like I said, I can't really think of anything else that I plan to discuss today. We covered a lot of great things, a lot of interesting areas. Who knows what the field holds, because as soon as we turn around, there'll be something new, some new CVE. I guess some Fortinet, FortiGate stuff seems like it's bouncing around again, and so who really knows?
Cool, man. Well, you know me, I could talk all day. I'd pick another random topic and just go forever. I think for once we could actually wrap up not a minute past the hour, and then
yeah, I was thinking
I
that
won't know
too.
what to do with myself.
Well, hey, before we wrap up, conferences. What do you got on your schedule for this year?
Oh, thank you.
Really,
Yes.
really
So
looking
for
forward
anyone
to?
not aware,
Cactus Con has to be.
Yeah, my
okay.
baby. Well, not my baby anymore, but still seen and viewed as my baby. Cactus Con is in the Phoenix area. It's actually in Mesa, but people don't know Mesa. We just say Phoenix.
It's all Phoenix to me.
Yeah, it's all
Phoenix,
Phoenix,
just massive Phoenix. What do you mean I'm staying in Glenwood? Isn't it just all Phoenix?
There's actually an American Dad, if anyone's familiar, Seth MacFarlane, adult themed cartoon, not adult themed. Hold on, I mean more crass humor, cartoon, where one of the alien on Roger on the show is like, well, I had a roommate when I lived in Phoenix. He goes, well, it wasn't Phoenix, it was at Mesa, but no one knows where Like literally what I just said came from that episode.
Oh, okay.
So Cactus Con is February 14th and February 15th. You can just go to cactuscon.com. I'm actually doing a presentation on Saturday the 15th. I'm doing a presentation called Presenting Like a Boss, Virtual and Physical Presenting Tips.
Ooh, all right.
So I gave it at a private conference, private invite only conference. It wasn't recorded, that kind of thing. And it went really, really well. So I've expanded it and it's going to be a good time. So check that out if you get the chance. The schedule is now up. So you should be able to clickety click it. Yeah. That guy right there.
Ooh, there we go. Look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Cactus Con is a good time for the past couple of years. I always want to say we. I was actually the lead of the conference for 2 years, and I had to back down, but I still say like we, and I'm like, they're probably sitting there like, nah, man, you're not helping us with all this work anymore. So we. But anyways, on the 14th and 15th, if anyone has potential travel or doesn't have any travel plans or something like that, you want to come out and see it in person, awesome. But we have been streaming it, and it's available virtually. It'll be recorded and put on YouTube and things of that nature. So check that out. And then also the SANS Ransomware Summit for the year is coming up on, I want to say May 31st. I was wrong. May 30th, excuse me. Friday, May 30th, the SANS Ransomware Summit. I chair that along with Mary DeGrazia and just another, well, like my baby, my idea. Like that's one of my favorite screenshots of any SANS summits, by the way. If you scroll up a little bit and click the one where we're all laughing. Oh, does it click?
Well, yeah, I see you, but it's not.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of us just laughing at the
denied.
same time. There's John Hammond in there, Threat Jim, Squibbly Doo, Stephanie. Just a great time. It's a free summit, free virtual online summit. It'll also be recorded, but everyone check it out if you have a chance and attend. It's a good time.
Okay, awesome.
What about you?
Yeah, well, the only thing that I have outside of so work will have me maybe busy. I don't know, probably end up in Vegas for Hacker Summer Camp. But on my own time, I did submit to OrangeCon. Ooh. And this is in Amsterdam. It's in the Netherlands. It's in September. I submitted a training. I have no idea if they'll accept it or not. So there's a good chance that I report back to everyone in a few weeks that I didn't get accepted. I have absolutely no expectations here, but it would be great to go. I used to train at the Hack in the Box conferences years ago, and Hack in the Box would have a conference in Amsterdam and Singapore. They did some in Beijing. Malaysia. You can look them up. They're still an active group, although I don't think they currently have anything in Europe. But some of the folks that I met there, some of the local volunteers and some of the staff that were supporting the conference posted and are hosting this. So I saw an opportunity here. I actually got tagged in a post on LinkedIn, and I thought, oh, this will be awesome. So I came up with a training plan and an agenda just the other night, and it's hopefully kind of a one of a kind thing. And I don't know, we'll see how it goes. And if I don't get accepted, outside of that, yeah, I'm traveling a lot for work at the moment, and so it's probably a good thing. This one I might drag my spouse to, just and try to soften the blow of being gone so much. I personally love Amsterdam. It's one of my favorite places to go. So it was kind of an odd thing because I started thinking to myself the end of last year, boy, I haven't been in Amsterdam for a while. I should really find an excuse to go. And then like a week later, I got tagged in this post about submitting a training, and I'm like, okay, meant to be. Let's see what happens. So,
It is meant to be.
yeah.
That's a sign. It's a sign. Hey, what about August time frame? You do anything in August?
Yeah. I think I would imagine I'm submitting a workshop with some people I know. For DEF CON, at
Will
least
this
that's
be our 5th year if we're accepted?
something like that. Yeah, fourth or fifth. Yeah,
Sixth.
fifth.
Fourth,
Yeah,
fifth.
I'd have to go back and count now. It's been enough
I think it'll be
times
5th.
that I'm losing track. So we got, of course, we had a workshop accepted, you, me, and Aaron, and then I had an individual one accepted through Google with a colleague at Virus Total, which was really cool. So we'll have to see. The challenge I run into is it's one of my daughter's birthdays is August 6th, and so I'm becoming a habitual misser of her birthday, and she's young, and so it's birthdays are still, they're always important, but like I think they're disproportionately important when you're young, and it just breaks her heart when I have to say, no, I'm going to be gone for your birthday, honey. We'll celebrate it today though. It's not the same thing. And so I don't know. I'm wrestling with that. So I was going to message you and Aaron at some point here to figure out what our game plan was. And
Oh, now I feel bad that I'm still going to try to drag you out there.
well, yeah, and maybe I, last year I tried to turn it into let's do a road trip birthday thing, but we'll see. She's also really good and understands and stuff, so I couldn't ask for more. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
See,
I'm planning on it, but I am feeling a little bit of that, like, oh, I don't know.
I said that I could talk forever and that we'd wrap up early, and then yet here we are. So I'll just stop talking.
Yeah, sounds great. I will as well. Let's see if there's any last questions. Oreo Disassembler, yeah, thanks for joining, and everyone else here, Exor, and great to see you all. Casually Joseph, all right, yeah, thanks for joining right at the end here. We're wrapping up. We're going to hit end, so you'll have to get the recording, but thanks for joining. Yeah, Ryan, it was great chatting with you. We'll do this again for sure. And I guess in the meantime, if there's anything that I can do, let me know. Otherwise, you're in the Discord, the Cyber Yeti Discord. You can find it on the website. Feel free to reach out to us there. And hope everyone has a great rest of the month. And I'll get back to streaming here come early February.
Cool. Thanks for having me on, man.
All right. Talk to you later. See you, everyone. Thanks for joining.